We are coming in hot off a really, really bloody, disgusting good time with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake that we just got. And we're not building off of that one so much as we're looking back to what happened just before it. And that's welcome to me. We're, of course, talking about 2006's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning. Let's go ahead and cut into this one. We're going to get kicked off with a sweltering slaughterhouse on this one, where we see a rather bigger woman. She's having a hard time dealing with the heat, and she's also having a difficult time keeping up with her job. She winds up keeling over. The owners and proprietors of the establishment come over and realize she's in the middle of giving birth. She gives birth to a baby on the slaughterhouse floor. She presumably dies. The owners take a look at this baby and they decide to throw it out with the scraps of all the rest of the meat in a dumpster. So happens upon a member of the Hewitt family. They're not Sawyers anymore, they're Hewitts. And she's looking for scraps of meat. Apparently they don't have very much food and she's digging through a slaughterhouse dumpster. I can't even imagine what that would taste like. But winds up finding this baby, brings it home to the wonderful Hoyt, who is terrifying and tremendous, and he looks at it and says, quite frankly, what we were all thinking. That's the ugliest goddamn thing he's ever seen in his entire life. So our core of characters here is centered around Eric and his girlfriend, Chrissy. Now, Eric is played by Matt Bomer, and Chrissy is played by Jordana Brewster, and they're great in their roles, and they really look like they're in love, and I love the way that they talk about their future together, how many kids they want, etc. and so forth. Very sweet to build that up. Eric is basically going back to war, and he's only going back because his little brother got drafted with him. Now, his little brother is named Dean. He's played by Tyler Hanley, who you guys might know from Mayor of Kingstown. Great show. You should check that out. Dean's girlfriend, Bailey, is also along for the ride, and she's played by the magnificent, talented Diora Bard. Now, an unfortunate encounter with a robber on a motorcycle causes a wreck and brings Sheriff Hoyt back into our lives. And we've learned at the very beginning of this movie that he's only Sheriff Hoyt because he killed the sheriff of the town. They didn't have much of a police force, and Sheriff Hoyt just took his uniform, took his car, and said, you know what, I'm going to be sheriff of this town now. I don't think it's that simple in real life, but that's what we decided to go with in this lineage, and it works.
I think we've got a problem, Sheriff.
This is precisely where things go south for our cast. The robber trying to rob them on a motorcycle with a shotgun causes an accident. Chrissy gets thrown from the accident. She's off in a field somewhere watching the whole thing unfold. Sheriff Hoyt, he finds this draft card that belongs to Dean that he tried to set on fire. Now, burning your draft card is a major offense for Sheriff Hoyt. It really made him mad. So he winds up bringing everybody back to his house to sort this matter out. Deciding to build off of the remake was a gold medal idea because you get back to that scary sort of dilapidated mansion out in the middle of nowhere, and you get a little bit of backstory on how these members of this family came to be, such as Sheriff Hoyt became Sheriff Hoyt because he killed the sheriff who was trying to apprehend Leatherface. That's why he's Sheriff Hoyt. We find out why the old creepy guy that was copping a feel on Jessica Biel in the wheelchair, we see how he got into the wheelchair.
What's that on your face?
Mama, you get over there and hold on Kamani.
Why?
Because he ain't gonna like this much, that's why.
I love the backstory on this one. One path, though, that I've always enjoyed directors or writers or anybody that creates anything going down is the enemy of my enemy is my friend idea. We get a little bit of that here because Chrissy is desperately trying to flag somebody down so she can go and see where her friends have been taken and what's being done to them. She winds up flagging down a motorcyclist, a member of the motorcycle gang that they had run into at a gas station prior. That's how they knew about the four of them. The motorcycle gang decided they were easy marks, followed them with this lady. She flags down another guy on a motorcycle and says, hey, I need your help. I know where they took your friend. His interest automatically gets piqued, and away they go. So now we've got a bad guy armed with a big gun going after the other bad guys. I popped for that. I thought that was great. The cast here is a solid A. Both of these ladies are legit scream queens. They're strong enough in the fact that there's several points of the movie where you think they may get away, you think that they may be able to make it to the end, and you feel genuinely bad for them when all these different things are happening over the course of the film. Matt Bomer and Taylor Hanley are believable as brothers who want to get away from these guys, as well as also look out for one another while they're undergoing this torture that Sheriff Hoyt's putting them through. Leatherface is terrifying in this movie. It's the same gentleman that played Leatherface in the remake. He's tremendous. He's Latimer from The Program, for those of you who don't know. Spot at the table. I mean, everybody knows that.
Starting defense. Place at the table.
And Arlie Ermey is a presence that it's hard to describe. Like, if you have a movie where the main bad guy is a giant hulking man carrying a chainsaw that wears other people's skin, you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody else in that movie that you would be scared of as much as that guy. But Arlie Ermey is pretty terrifying here, and there's several instances where I'd almost rather run into Leatherface than that sadistic bastard.
People may not remember what we say here tonight, but they sure as shit gonna remember what we do. Thanks to the good sheriff here, we ain't gonna go hungry tonight.
It's in this film that we find out why Leatherface, or Tommy Hewitt, as he's called throughout the film, why he chooses or has to use other people's faces to cover his own. It's because of the deformities that he was born with as a child. Until this happens, he's been wearing a gnarly leather face covering that is pretty scary in its own right. This is his maiden voyage with the chainsaw as his primary weapon, though, and Sheriff Hoyt fully supports his use of that, his creativeness with that, and thus a legend is born. With the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came right before this one, they made Leatherface scary again. And even though this movie is not as good as the remake was, it's right there with it. I mean, it's neck and neck. This one's going to age gracefully. It's scary. It's a great rewatch. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I feel like it's one of the better films in this franchise. And if they'd have just kept with this Hewitt lineage, I think they could have turned out more successful, movies along these lines. I don't know why they went away from it, but they did. And we'll get into that when we get into that. But as of right now, this one ages gracefully. This is a great movie. The cast is great. It's legitimately scary. And you really don't know what turn they're going to take, because this came before the remake, so they can really do anything they want, and they did. But that movie was the beginning, and this is the ending of this one. This is Aging Gracefully. I'm Matthew Essex. I'll see you fine folks on the other side.